There's a reason you are here right now. Something inside you knew you needed to hear this, even if you can't put your finger on what that something is. Because while you've been going through your days, handling your responsibilities, showing up for others, there's been a quiet revolution happening beneath the surface of your awareness. A transformation so subtle, so profound, that you might not even realize it's been taking place. And by the time you finish watching this, you'll understand why the changes you've been feeling, the ones you can't quite name or explain to anyone else, are actually the most sacred signs that your soul is finally coming home to itself. You see, most people believe that healing should feel dramatic. They expect some kind of lightning bolt moment where everything suddenly makes sense, where all the pain disappears and you emerge as this perfect, unbroken version of yourself. But that's not how real transformation works. True healing doesn't arrive with trumpets and celebration. It comes like dawn, so gradually that you don't notice it's happening until you realize you're no longer living in darkness. Carl Jung understood this better than anyone who came before or after him. He knew we don't heal by cutting away the parts of ourselves we're ashamed of. We heal by bringing them into the light, by making peace with every fragment of who we are. He called this integration, the sacred work of gathering all your scattered pieces and weaving them back into wholeness. And if you've been feeling different lately, if there's been a shift in how you see yourself and the world around you, if something inside you feels like it's settling into place after years of being restless and fragmented, then what you're experiencing isn't random. It's not just time passing or circumstances changing. It's the deepest kind of healing there is, and it's been happening whether you realized it or not. The truth is, integration doesn't shout. It whispers. It moves through you like water finding its way through stone, reshaping you from the inside out with a patience that can only come from the soul itself. And there are signs, quiet but unmistakable signs, that this ancient alchemy is already working its magic within you. The first sign that you're healing through integration is perhaps the most liberating of all. You begin to notice that the voice in your head, the one that's been your harshest critic for years, starts to soften. Not because you've forced it to, not because you've read enough self-help books to convince yourself to think positive thoughts, but because something deeper is shifting. You catch yourself in moments where you would have once torn yourself apart, and instead, you pause. You feel the familiar urge to punish yourself for not being perfect, for making a mistake, for feeling too much or not enough. And something inside you says, wait. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's just a gentle knowing that you don't deserve the cruelty you've been serving yourself. Your internal dialogue begins to change. Not through force, but through recognition. You start to see that the voice that's been beating you down isn't actually you. It's a collection of old wounds, past criticisms, and fears that have been masquerading as wisdom. And when you see it clearly, it begins to lose its power. This doesn't mean you stop having standards for yourself, or that you become complacent. It means you start treating yourself like someone you actually care about. You begin to speak to yourself with the same tenderness you'd offer a good friend going through a hard time. And in that shift, something miraculous happens. You stop feeling like you're at war with yourself. The exhaustion that comes from constantly fighting your own thoughts begins to lift. You realize how much energy you've been wasting on this internal battle. And suddenly, that energy is available for other things, for growth, for joy, for actually living your life instead of just surviving it. But this is just the beginning. Because as you make peace with your inner critic, you open the door to something even more profound. The second sign reveals itself in the most unexpected way. You begin to notice that you can hold two seemingly opposite truths at the same time without feeling like you're falling apart. You can feel sad and grateful in the same moment. You can be strong and vulnerable. You can love someone and still need space from them. You can be proud of how far you've come while also acknowledging how far you still have to go. Most people spend their entire lives trying to resolve these contradictions, thinking that being human means being consistent, that being whole means having all your emotions lined up in neat little rows. But integration teaches you something revolutionary, that your contradictions aren't problems to be solved. They're the very essence of what makes you beautifully, completely human. You stop trying to edit yourself into a simpler version. You stop apologizing for feeling multiple things at once. You realize that the parts of you that seem to conflict, the part that wants to be social, and the part that craves solitude, the part that's confident, and the part that's insecure, the part that's healed, and the part that's still healing. They all belong to you. They're all valid. They're all welcome. This acceptance creates a kind of inner spaciousness that you've never experienced before. You're no longer cramped by the need to be one thing or another. You can be everything you are, all at once, without justification or explanation. And in that freedom, you discover something incredible. You actually like yourself more, not less, when you stop trying to be perfect. Your relationships begin to reflect this shift too. You stop attracting people who need you to be one-dimensional, and you start connecting with others who can appreciate the full spectrum of who you are. You no longer feel the need to hide your complexity or pretend to be simpler than you are. And as you settle into this new way of being, you notice something else beginning to transform. Here's where the real magic happens. You begin to develop a completely different relationship with pain, discomfort, and difficult emotions. Instead of running from them, fighting them, or trying to numb them out of existence, you start to get curious about what they're trying to tell you. This doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't mean you suddenly enjoy suffering. It means you stop seeing pain as evidence that something is wrong with you, or that you're not healing fast enough, or that you've somehow failed at life. You begin to understand that pain is information. It's your soul's way of getting your attention, of pointing you towards something that needs your care. When grief arrives, instead of pushing it away, you make space for it. When anger shows up, instead of judging yourself for feeling it, you listen to what it's trying to protect. When fear whispers its warnings, instead of letting it paralyze you, you thank it for caring about your safety, while still choosing to move forward. Your body begins to reflect this shift. Those chronic tensions you've been carrying in your shoulders, your jaw, your stomach, they start to release. Not because your life becomes stress-free, but because you're no longer holding your breath against your own experience. You're no longer bracing yourself against your feelings. You discover that when you stop resisting pain, it moves through you more easily. It comes, it delivers its message, and it goes. It no longer sets up camp in your nervous system, creating those loops of anxiety and depression that used to feel endless. You realize that most of your suffering wasn't actually from the pain itself, but from your resistance to feeling it. This transformation creates a profound sense of trust in yourself. You know you can handle whatever comes up, because you've learned how to be with it instead of being overwhelmed by it. You've discovered that you're stronger than you thought, not because you can avoid pain, but because you can move through it with grace. And from this place of trust, something even more beautiful begins to unfold. One of the most profound signs of integration is when your relationship with your past completely transforms. The memories that used to feel like knives in your chest begin to feel different. Not because you've forgotten what happened or convinced yourself it wasn't that bad, but because you've stopped letting those experiences define your present moment. You can think about difficult times in your life without falling into them. You can remember without reliving. You can acknowledge what happened without being consumed by it. Your past stops feeling like a prison and starts feeling like the sacred ground where you learn to be strong. This shift doesn't happen because you've forgiven everyone who hurt you, though that might come later if it feels right. It happens because you've forgiven yourself. You've stopped punishing yourself for the choices you made when you didn't know what you know now. You've stopped beating yourself up for not protecting yourself better, for staying in situations that hurt you, for not speaking up when your soul was screaming. You begin to see that every version of yourself, the scared one, the broken one, the one who made mistakes, the one who trusted the wrong people, they were all doing their best with the tools they had. They were all trying to survive, to protect your heart, to find their way in a world that hadn't yet taught them how to navigate it safely. From this place of self-compassion, your entire life story transforms. It's no longer a tragedy of things that happened to you. It becomes an epic of how you learned to rise, how you discovered your strength, how you chose to keep going even when everything felt impossible. You realize that your scars aren't marks of damage. They're evidence of your incredible capacity to heal. And this realization changes everything about how you show up in the world. If these words are resonating with something deep inside you, consider subscribing to the channel to stay connected. There's a whole community of souls who understand this path. Now, let's explore the next signs. As integration deepens, you begin to notice a fundamental shift in how you move through the world. Where you once reacted from a place of old wounds and triggered patterns, you now find yourself responding from a centered, grounded place. It's as if there's a pause between what happens to you and how you choose to engage with it. This doesn't mean you become emotionless or detached. It means you develop what Jung called conscious response. The ability to feel everything fully while still choosing how to act from a place of wisdom rather than woundedness. You no longer let every trigger pull you into old patterns of behavior that leave you feeling drained and regretful. When someone criticizes you, instead of immediately defending yourself or attacking back, you find yourself able to pause and ask, "Is there truth in this I can learn from?" When plans fall through, instead of spiraling into catastrophic thinking, you adapt with a flexibility that surprises even you. When people try to push your buttons, you realize you're no longer as interested in having those buttons pushed. Your energy becomes more stable, more consistent. You're no longer riding the emotional roller coaster of other people's moods and reactions. You maintain your center, not by shutting down or building walls, but by staying connected to that integrated place within you where all parts of yourself coexist peacefully. This creates a kind of magnetic presence. People feel safer around you because they sense that you're not going to explode, manipulate, or abandon yourself to please them. You become someone who can hold space for difficult conversations, who can stay present in conflict without making it about winning or being right. And as your responses become more conscious, you notice something beautiful happening in your relationships. Perhaps one of the most noticeable signs of integration is how dramatically your relationships begin to change. You find yourself naturally gravitating toward people who can meet you at your new level of authenticity, while relationships that require you to fragment yourself or wear masks begin to feel increasingly uncomfortable. You're no longer willing to split yourself in half just to be loved. You stop editing your truth to make others comfortable. You no longer give pieces of yourself away hoping to earn acceptance or approval. Instead, you show up as your integrated self and allow others to respond authentically to who you actually are. This doesn't make you harsh or uncompromising. It makes you real. You become someone who can love deeply without losing yourself, who can be supportive without becoming codependent, who can set boundaries without feeling guilty. You understand that real love, the kind that actually nourishes your soul, can only exist between people who are willing to be genuine with each other. You begin to attract relationships that feed your spirit rather than drain it. Conversations become deeper, more meaningful. You find yourself surrounded by people who appreciate your complexity, who aren't threatened by your growth, who celebrate your authenticity rather than trying to control or change you. Even your relationship with solitude transforms. You no longer feel lonely when you're alone because you've learned to be good company for yourself. You can enjoy your own presence, which makes you less needy in your relationships with others. You connect with people from a place of fullness rather than emptiness, which creates an entirely different dynamic. And from this place of authentic connection, the final sign of integration begins to emerge. The ultimate sign that integration is taking root in your life is the emergence of a peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. It's not the peace of having everything figured out or having your life perfectly arranged. It's the peace of knowing you can handle whatever comes, that you can trust yourself to navigate whatever challenges arise. This peace doesn't come from avoiding difficulty or pretending everything is fine when it's not. It comes from the deep knowing that you are no longer at war with yourself. All parts of you, the light and the shadow, the strong and the vulnerable, the certain and the confused, have been welcomed home. There's no longer an internal battle consuming your energy. You find yourself able to be present with what is, instead of constantly fighting against reality or desperately trying to control outcomes. You can sit with uncertainty without anxiety consuming you. You can face challenges without immediately assuming the worst. You can experience setbacks without interpreting them as evidence that you're not enough or that life is against you. This peace is quiet, but unshakable. It doesn't announce itself or demand attention. It simply exists. Like a deep well within you that never runs dry. It's there when you wake up in the morning and when you lay your head down at night. It travels with you through busy days and quiet moments alike. People begin to notice something different about your presence. You radiate a calm that isn't forced or performed. You've stopped trying to prove anything to anyone, including yourself. You're simply here, fully inhabiting your life, fully present to your experience, fully at home in your own skin. And from this place of integrated wholeness, you realize that the healing you've been seeking was never about becoming someone new. It was about remembering who you've always been. Beneath all the wounds, the defenses, and the fragmented pieces, it was about coming home to yourself. What you've discovered through this journey of integration is that healing isn't a destination. It's a way of being. It's not about reaching some final state of perfection where you never feel pain or make mistakes or experience difficult emotions. It's about learning to hold all of your human experience with compassion, wisdom, and grace. You've learned that wholeness doesn't mean having no broken places. It means allowing your broken places to be part of your beauty, part of your story, part of what makes you uniquely, powerfully you. You've discovered that your darkness isn't something to be eliminated, but something to be integrated, honored, and even celebrated as part of your complete self. If you recognize yourself in these signs, if something inside you is nodding in recognition as you listen to these words, then you're already well on your way. The integration is happening, the healing is real, and the peace you've been seeking is not only possible, it's already beginning to emerge from the depths of your being. Trust the process. Trust yourself. Trust that every difficult moment, every challenge, every breakdown that led to breakthrough has been preparing you for this, for the profound gift of coming home to who you truly are. Your journey of integration is sacred work, and the world needs the healed, whole, integrated version of you that is emerging. The path continues, but you no longer walk it alone. You walk it with all parts of yourself finally unified, finally at peace, finally home.